everyone, Mahatma Gandhi once famously said, "Why have two NAS systems when you can have three?" And honestly, he had a point. Because even though I already have a 48TB HomeLab NAS and I have a 28TB Synology NAS, in today's video I'm going to try and convince myself and all of you that I desperately need this third NAS. So this is the Terramaster F2-425, and it's a 2-bay NAS that has an Intel CPU, although admittedly that's only a Celeron. It also comes with 4 gigs of RAM, but it is upgradable, unlike Synology that actually solder it on some of their cheaper units. This also has a 2.5 gig Ethernet port and a price that undercuts some of its bigger rivals such as Ugreen. So the question is simple: do I actually need this NAS, and could it replace my aging Synology NAS, or am I simply enabling my NAS addiction? Well, one of the first things that actually attracted me to this NAS is that you get fairly powerful hardware for your money, because this is only £230 in the UK, and when you consider that this supports up to 60TB of storage across the 2 hard drives and you get like a 2.5 gig Ethernet, then that's actually pretty good, because I've got a super professional home network which is 2.5 gigs, so I can take advantage of that. And yes, that switch is dangling by the Ethernet cable, that's how I roll. And one of the things with Terramaster is they've sometimes had a reputation for being like really good on the hardware, but not so good on the software. But recently they've said they've made some improvements, so I'm personally kind of eager to see whether those software improvements have actually been delivered or not. And finally, I want to test out CloudSync, which allows you to back up all of your cloud files onto your NAS, and that's something I personally want to do for reasons I'll explain later. And the actual unboxing experience is as you'd expect. You know, the NAS itself is fairly compact, and then it comes with like a power brick and another Ethernet cable that you can probably chuck in a cupboard somewhere, and also some hard drive screws, but as it turns out I didn't actually need them. The back then has 2 USB-A ports, a 2.5 gig Ethernet port, and a HDMI cable if you wanted to use this for like Plex or other media streaming, which is also a nice feature. The front then has another USB port, your clicky power button, I don't know why I called it clicky power button, but it's got that there, and then you've actually got the drive bays as well that clip in and out really easily. Installing the hard drives was really easy too. I didn't actually need any screws, because basically I could pop the clip off the side, put the drives in, and then clip them back together. So when do you need the included drive screws? Well, the answer is, I don't know. My hard drives felt secure, so I just turned a blind eye to it and hoped for the best. So 5 stars so far, which is suspicious because usually at this point something has annoyed me. But next it was time to set everything up, and while Terramaster does have a desktop app, I tend to prefer doing everything in a browser where possible, so I went to tnas.local and I started the setup. And one of the first things it mentions is making sure your hard drive is compatible, and this sent my blood pressure through the roof because of Synology's antics where they temporarily banned loads of third-party hard drives. But luckily Terramaster actually support many different types of hard drives, so they're just making sure that you haven't got one of those like dodgy hard drives which actually is just like an SD card in it or something like that. The setup process then gives you the choice between like a custom install or an automatic one, and to be honest I was feeling brave, lazy, and also I didn't actually care all that much because it's just like a 2-bay NAS, and I knew I wanted my data to be, you know, mirrored, so I just went ahead with the automatic option. And at this point I should quickly say that while Ugreen support like RAID 1 and RAID 10 and all of that, Terramaster do things slightly differently, and they've got something called T-RAID, which is a bit more flexible, and it allows you to like mix and match different hard drive sizes and things like that, which isn't too useful on a 2-bay NAS, but it does give you more future-proofing options compared to something like Ugreen. The installer also blocks the root user by default, which I was quite glad to see because, you know, security is cool, kids. So instead I created a new user called Nassi McNassi because I am very mature. But overall the install process went smoothly and took around 10 minutes in total, which included updating and things like that. The initial UI experience was really nice too. A very serious lion stared me down as I went through the initial wizard and watched the automated security scan run through. And that security scan is pretty cool too. It's not something I had with Unraid or Synology, but actually having a scan right in your face saying, hey, here are the things that, you know, not necessarily are making your NAS insecure, but saying, hey, here's the things you could do to make things even more secure. Now, one of the things I always test with a UI is whether the back button works, because I've got one on my mouse and I'm constantly clicking that. And to be honest, no, it doesn't. You know, the Terramaster NAS just really doesn't like it when you click the back button, and that is a pity, but in, you know, Terramaster's defense, the Synology UI on the website doesn't actually work with the back button either, but Unraid actually does, so 10 points to Unraid, and 0 for Synology and Terramaster. Anyway, after everything was set up, I poked around the control panel, and there's a lot there. You know, lots of information, lots of config options, and actually more than I expected. You know, everything from FTP to proxy support, and UPS support to hot spares, so that's all quite good and professional, and also there was a big drive towards backups, and there's a fairly fancy diagram giving way to lots of different backup options and sync options for you to actually look through. And I actually, you know, backups are so important because even if you've got like, you know, 2 hard drive bays running in RAID or whatever, you know, RAID made is not a backup, so the fact that Terramaster are actually, shoving backups in your face is actually a really good thing in my opinion. SMB was also on by default, and when I tested the file sharing, between Windows and this, it actually worked flawlessly. There was no problem at all. I could just put in my username and password, and it just worked. And you might be thinking, well, it should always work, but Windows gaslights the hell out of you a lot of the time, and it just says that you've got something wrong even though you didn't. You can also customize the look and feel of the UI, so I swapped the background image for this because I am very, very immature. So at this point I was actually pleasantly surprised with the UI. Some things do look a bit unpolished and there are a few typos and things like that, but this is TOS version 6, and apparently TOS 7 is going to come out at some point and is going to be even better, so we'll see. Terramaster, as I said in the intro, had a reputation for being better on the hardware than the software, but actually I was pleasantly surprised at this stage with the software too. The main issue I had though was Terramaster was reporting one of my drives as being in a warning state. And both of the drives I bought were like eBay refurbished specials just because hard drive prices have gone through the roof, and apparently I trust my data less than the price of a takeaway. Well, on deeper investigation, I found that there's a value called reported uncorrected, and that was showing a non-zero value. And that could be the sign of a drive that's starting to die, but it could also be that these hard drives were used in an office machine and somebody just yanked the power cord while things were being written to the disk, and then that would give rise to this particular value showing a non-zero value. But I think in general the hard drives were fine, and it's just the case that Terramaster NAS is being a little bit too strict. But that is a good thing. You want your NAS to be too strict and too paranoid. You don't want a NAS just sitting around like that Ralph Wiggum meme.
I'm in danger!
Next, I wanted to test the mobile app, and I did notice with trepidation that it only had 1.9 out of 5 stars on the Android app at the time of filming. But weirdly, it wasn't too bad, at least for me. The app actually found my NAS straight away. It then exposed a surprising number of settings, and I could browse my files without much drama. It even shows a low-res image preview of any images first, which is really useful if you're on mobile data, but then you can always actually click a button to see the high-res version. Uploading photos was a bit buggier though, so the first time I selected a few images, the app seemed to panic, reset my selection, and then present me with a different photo management screen. And that was odd, but after that point, uploads worked every single time, so maybe it was a case of first-state nerves, premature uploadification. So overall, the app isn't going to win any design awards, and it doesn't really scream premium, but it's functional, and given the reviews, that's actually better than I expected. Now at this point I was really eager to try out CloudSync, which can connect to over 20 cloud providers and back up your data to the NAS, or you can have it in reverse. You can have your NAS data go into the cloud. And in my case, I wanted to actually back up my Google Drive locally because, there's always horror stories out there of Google doing something silly. I love you, Google, thanks to my YouTube channel. But, in general, I just wanted to protect myself by ensuring that my Google Drive was actually backed up locally. To do this, you have to link your Google account and then grant Terramaster quite a lot of access. As the webpage says, make sure you fully trust Terramaster, and that does sound really scary, the fact you're giving it full control, but to be honest, all NASes are going to need those permissions if you want to back up through your Google Drive account. But yeah, carrying on the process, it did work, but it was a bit clunky, and I noticed a couple of typos, and also you can't create a destination folder during the backup process, so I had to back out of that screen, create a folder for where I wanted my backups to go, and then, reset up the backups again. And that's not a major problem, but you'd expect a polished UI for a NAS to have a create a new folder button on any wizard like that. The weirdest bit for me though was the speed reporting after setting things up, because for a lot of the backup, it claimed that it was downloading at just 1 megabit per second, which would have taken over 24 hours because I had 128 gigs of data. In the end though, the backup actually finished in less than 1 hour because I've got a 1 gig download speed, and I did, double and triple check, and all the files were definitely there. So I think it was just a case that the speed information in the UI was actually just wrong and broken, to be honest. Despite that though, in general, my experience with this Terramaster NAS has been really, really good. Plus, if you do really, really hate the software for some reason, then what you can actually do, and what many people do, is just reset this and instead install something like Unraid or TrueNAS on it. But now I can finally sleep peacefully knowing that I've finally achieved Mahatma Gandhi's key life teaching. I love the Gandhi memes. Anyway, if you've got any comments about this, please leave them in the comments. Don't know where else you would leave them. And if you enjoyed this video, please click the thumbs up button and please subscribe to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching.